Skiing is one of the most rewarding sports to master. Recent advances in technology mean the sport has never been so accessible, whether you're a beginner making your first turns or an expert looking to free ride in deep powder snow. This DVD and accompanying book will help you learn the key skills you need to become adept on the slopes and, most importantly, ski safely. From the basics of parallel skiing to steeps, moguls and off-piste, you will see professionals demonstrate the techniques and discover how each movement is broken down in graphic detail. Master these skills and you'll soon experience the exhilaration and freedom that comes from gliding over the snow in the most breathtaking surroundings of any sport. Skiing relies on a number of key basic skills, and it's important to get into good habits early on to ensure you ski safely and enjoyably. Even relatively advanced skiers can benefit from going back to the basics and making sure they have a really strong foundation for their technique. Skiing works the muscles in ways that your body will be unused to, so it's essential as part of your day's skiing that you take time to go through a good warm-up routine that allows the muscles to work more effectively for you. Many skiers steer their skis solely with their feet and lack strength in the legs to perform the steering action. This can be remedied by copying the steering action you would make if you were steering your skis with your leg muscles. Lift one leg and begin to move your knee across your hips without rotating them. Steer your thigh right across your body until you've reached your full range without the hip rotating. Drive the thigh outwards, keeping the foot next to the knee on the supporting leg. Reach the maximum outwards range and then allow the foot to drop, and repeat. To stretch the hamstrings after skiing, place one leg in front of the other. Slowly lower your body down until you feel the stretch along the back of your leg and into your glutes. Allow there to be a little flex in the leg and hold the stretch for 20 seconds. Being able to flex your ankles when you're skiing is essential. If there's more knee flex than ankle flex, you'll be skiing out of balance. This causes the pivot point at the ball of the foot to disappear. The body weight is then placed over the tails of the skis, and the skis become more difficult to steer. Once you're clipped into your binding, make sure your ski boots are clipped up so you're comfortably and securely supported. Once in this position, extend your ankle until you're as straight as you can comfortably be. Slowly flex the ankle and feel your shin press down against the tongue of the boot. As you're flexing, check to make sure your hips remain over the balls of your feet. Your knees should move over the front of your ski binding, and the boot should flex around its hinge. A dynamic stance in skiing is extremely important, as it's a sport where everything is constantly changing. As you ski, you change your body position to adjust to the terrain you're skiing on to remain in balance. Try to keep your head up, level, and looking forwards with your hands in front of you and slightly out to the side. Aim to keep your hips over the balls of your feet, with your knees and ankles ready to flex. Your shoulders and lower back should be rounded, though the shoulders can be lowered for carving turns and raised higher for moguls and off-piste terrain. A great way to get a feel for the ski's edges and how they can support you is to skate with them on the flat. It's also a good way to warm up before skiing. Skating on the flat is similar to skating on ice or on inline skates. Your first downhill run will involve 3 techniques: sidestepping, pivoting around your poles, and straight running. This is the safest way of getting started and will instill the most confidence. To begin, look down at your skis and tilt them onto their uphill edge. This can be done by moving your hip up the hill. Step your uphill leg up approximately half a meter above you and keep the support and grip from the downhill leg. Keeping the uphill ski on its uphill edge. Use it as a supporting platform and lift the downhill ski up to join the uphill ski. Repeat this process until you have successfully ascended. Once you've ascended, use your poles to help you pivot around and face downhill. Once you have your support from the poles, begin to step your skis around using a snowplow wedge. The V shape of the snowplow wedge gives you two edges to support you and stops the skis sliding off downhill. Once your V shape is pointing downhill, step the skis into a parallel shape so you can be prepared for your first straight run. Before you begin your straight run, check and make sure your body is positioned in the following way. Your ankles are flexed in your ski boots. Your hips are on top of the balls of your feet. Your hands are out in front of you to help balance, and your head is raised and looking forwards at your destination. Once you're ready, push off with your poles and glide till you come to a stop. As you learn to slide, you can benefit greatly from exercises and drills that develop your feeling for balance and movement over the skis. The sooner you get used to being able to flex and extend rather than staying static, the better. To help you get started with this, use the following drills. Once you've begun your straight running descent, slowly flex your ankles by pressing your shins down on the tongue of your ski boots. Do this repeatedly from the start to the finish of your run, making sure your hips remain over the balls of your feet throughout. As you progress with your skiing and learn to turn, you will feel different pressures building against each foot. A good way to prepare for this feeling is by lifting your feet up and down alternately while sliding along the snow. A good way to test your balance and range of movement further is by jumping as you make your straight running descent. Flex down onto your boot and then extend upwards rapidly until your skis leave the ground. As you gain height off the ground, try to keep your upper body over the balls of your feet. When landing, flex through all the joints in the leg, especially the ankles. A snowplow is a wedge shape used to develop speed control and progress on from straight running. The snowplow is also the shape that is used to begin the steering and turning process. To get a feel for skiing with the snowplow shape, try it first on a flat slope with no traveling speed. Plant both of your poles in the ground to support your body weight and aid your balance. Make sure your joints are flexed and ready to be extended slightly. Feel the grip on the poles increase to support you more and jump the legs outwards. Try to keep the tips from moving out. They should be kept about 15 centimeters apart at all times. Again, using your poles to support you, jump back into a parallel position. Repeat this jumping into a wedge shape several times and try to do it with rhythm. Eventually, you'll get very familiar with the shape and be well prepared for making the plow whilst sliding. By developing the shape of the snowplow, you can actually use it to speed up or slow down the speed of your descent. A narrow snowplow wedge shape will go faster, and a wide snowplow wedge will go slower. Using this can allow you to stop on the hill whilst descending on shallow slopes, which will build your confidence. A good exercise to get a feel for the muscles that help the skis control the plow shape is brushing. Use your poles to support you, and repeatedly brush out the skis from parallel into the snowplow position. Once you get into snowplow, lift them back in one at a time. This will develop the coordination of the legs and help make them work equally. Once you've mastered braking in snowplow, it's time to start working on snowplow turning. This is one of the first areas of skiing where you'll feel a difference in pressures between the left and right sides of the body. As you turn your skis across the hill, your body's momentum wants to continue traveling down the hill. So if you're turning left, the right or downhill ski will feel an increase in pressure. To begin your snowplow turn, start with your body facing down the fall line. Set yourself up symmetrically and check that the weight is equal on both feet. Also check the shape of your snowplow and make sure the tips of your skis are 15 centimeters apart. As you start traveling down the hill, start to initiate your snowplow turn by steering your outside ski to the left. This movement should be smooth and progressive. As the turn progresses, you'll feel the pressure build up against the downhill ski. You'll also feel the pressure reduce off the uphill ski. As pressure builds on the downhill ski, try to maintain flex in the ankle, knee, and hips. Once you come towards the end of your turn, you'll feel the speed decrease. Maintain the snowplow wedge and allow yourself to come to a complete stop. When you're comfortable at steering in both directions, try linking your plow turns together. To begin, use the same gradient as for single turns. In the early stages of linked turns, allow a moment for the legs to return to a 50-50 pressure feeling to recenter yourself in the fall line. This will prevent you from crossing the tips of your skis. At this stage in skiing, you'll be able to start exploring more of the green and blue runs of the resort you're learning in. So remember, make sure you warm up properly before you start skiing. Use the ankle flex test to get a feel for being in the correct position over the sweet spot of the ski. Always start by setting yourself up in a dynamic stance, ready to react to the changes in pressure under your feet. Practice using the snowplow shape to make turns and control your speed as you descend the piste. Now that you've learned these basic skills, you should be ready to start bringing your skis parallel and linking more advanced turns. Once you've mastered snowplow turns, the natural progression is to bring the skis together in parallel. Parallel turns are more effective and efficient compared to snowplow turns, as you have two skis at the same angle in the turn, doubling the amount of support and grip they give you. Side slipping is one of the most important skills to learn in skiing, as it gives you the ability to maneuver yourself down steep slopes without moving too far forwards and gaining too much speed. It can be used to help take the speed out of parallel or carved turns that may be accelerating too fast. And it's also extremely useful for getting down narrow sections of terrain and negotiating moguls. Set yourself up with your hip slightly uphill, so your skis are tilted onto their edges. Slowly shift your weight down the hill so it's directly over your feet. As you're doing this, try to encourage your downhill ski to flatten. You should feel the ski edges releasing and the skis start to slide. To stop the slide, move your hips back up the hill and the skis will tilt back onto their edges, locking you back onto the slope in a stationary position. One of the most important parts of progressing from snowplow to parallel turns is developing the steering action of the inside leg. Remember, the inside leg is always the one that is up the hill as you steer through the last part of the turn. To progress your snowplow into parallel with strength and confidence, start to use your thighs to rotate the skis. The thighs contain some of the body's strongest muscle groups and can powerfully dominate the steering actions you apply to your skis. Here are a few drills that will help you develop these actions. Leaving your poles by the side of the piste, begin making your snowplow turn. Place your hand on the inside leg and start to pull and rotate on it to encourage an earlier steering movement. This will help to make your inside leg steering action proactive rather than just active and allow the skis to become parallel earlier in the turn. By making a pole window in front of you, it gives you a guide to aim your upper body and shoulder at. Make sure the pole window is at right angles with the fall line at all times. This will further encourage the legs to steer independently of the upper body. By placing your hands on your hip bones, you can monitor if your hip is rotating during the turn. Having the support of your hands also helps stabilize the hip and promotes good leg steering independently of it. Making a J-shaped turn is a great way to get a feel for parallel skiing. As the name suggests, you aim to descend the hill and make a turn after gaining some speed in the fall line. The turn is more complete than a normal parallel turn and actually ends up with your skis pointing back up the hill. Set yourself up in the fall line with your ski poles supporting you, then narrow the shape of your snowplow. Lift your poles and allow yourself to slide downhill and increase your speed. Start to steer the outside ski across the hill, maintaining the narrower shape of the plow. As you steer across the slope, maintain the flex in your joints and let your inside ski feel relaxed and light. Rotate the inside ski to match the downhill ski, feeling how the skis match and skid in parallel towards the end of the turn. When linking plow turns together, you'll feel a pedaling action in the legs start to develop. Try to encourage and exaggerate this. As the outside leg of the turn extends, the inside leg of the turn flexes, just like on a pedal bike. This pedaling action will lead you in the direction of parallel turns. Making your first parallel turn is a great feeling. Steering in both directions with the skis matching feels smoother, and when performed correctly, it actually takes up less energy than turns that use a snowplow shape at the initiation. To achieve the complete parallel turn, you need to add 2 extra elements: mid-body projection and progressive steering. Mid-body projection is the ability to move your hips forwards and across to help both legs move and tilt both skis over simultaneously. To project the hips across, try to feel yourself initiate your new turn by falling. It's a progressive movement and always performed at a rate and range that varies according to the turn speed, radius, and type of gradient you're on. To keep your skis parallel through the turns, your steering and the general control of rotation of the skis needs to be progressive. If you steer too suddenly, your skis will begin skidding out of the track of the parallel turn. If you steer all at once, your smooth S-shaped turns will turn into Z-shaped turns. As you finish your turn to the left, initiate the turn to the right by projecting your hips across. As the hips have projected diagonally forwards and across your feet, you will feel your edges change. Steer your legs progressively through the turn as the hips come across. Both skis keep the same angle until the next turn begins. Once you've developed your skiing level beyond basic parallel turns, the need for a pole plant in your skiing is essential. The pole plant, a stab into the snow with your ski poles, when added to your skiing, gives you rhythm and also 2 extra points of contact with the snow. These 2 extra points of contact are like 4-wheel drive when it comes to steeps, moguls and free skiing, and the rhythm really helps when making shorter radius turns. So remember, get used to the feeling of side slipping to help control the skis during your turns. Practice encouraging your inside leg to steer the ski, which makes the steering action more controlled and proactive. Try not to steer too suddenly. Instead, make the turn progressive and smooth. Use a pole plant to link your turns rhythmically. You should be starting to get used to the feeling of linking your turns with the skis parallel. Now it's time to start discovering what the skis are really capable of by learning to carve. Carving has traditionally been the province of professional downhill and slalom racers, but modern ski design has evolved to include more side cut. This gives skis an hourglass shape that is perfectly designed for the greater angulation and grip needed for carving turns. Your ability to perform these turns depends on several factors. As you steer through your turn, centripetal force causes you to lean and put your hips inside the arc shape your skis are making. This prevents your body from being pulled outside the arc by the opposing centrifugal force. And of course, there is always the force of gravity, which is constantly pulling you down the hill. As you carve, you will also feel the pressure build up against the ski edges. This is the combination of the force of your mass traveling outwards and downwards and the pressure of the snow. If you want to travel faster and make more dynamic turns, you will have to resist greater centrifugal force. To do this, your hips need to be further inside the turn, and your edges need to be more angled. Many skiers never reach their full potential in carved turns due to an inability to fall into the correct angle. The area of the body that is often restricted is the hips, and to free them up, you need to be able to move them laterally. This can be intimidating and confusing, especially when you're concentrating on other aspects of your technique. To encourage your hip into the right position, place your hand against the hip of your outside leg and push gradually across. The hip will increase its distance towards the inside of the turn, and in turn, increase leg lean and edge angle. When you're comfortable with this, try it without the hand and see if you can make it move laterally. Quite often, your inside leg can have a delay in its leaning movement. To help the hip move laterally earlier in the turn and for a greater distance, steer through the turn placing your hand inside your thigh and encourage it to lean by pushing outwards. If you want to make clean, parallel turns in all aspects of skiing, including carving, steeps, moguls, and free skiing, it's essential that you have a symmetrical stance. Good symmetry means having your feet, knees, and hips the same distance apart. Quite often, skiers lose symmetry in their legs while steering from one turn to the next and allow either their knees to drop inwards or their feet to split wider apart, both of which break the symmetry. To further improve your carved turns, you need to learn how to use your body weight to manipulate the skis. Pressure needs to be generated by the skier to bend the ski into a reverse camber shape, which is more effective for carving. Other pressures need to be managed to maintain efficiency and not allow your skis to skid away from you towards the end of a turn. An excellent way of giving your carved turns a nicer arc shape is learning to bend the skis into reverse camber. To feel this, you need to learn to project forwards at the start of the turn. As you move through a turn, you will feel your body weight naturally shift towards the rear of the ski, so as to use the tail of the ski to round out the turn. The position of the hips at the end of the turn applies pressure through the tail of the skis. Now focus on how you will drive your hips forwards and across for the next turn. Use your arms to help thrust you forwards and diagonally across the skis, so that your hips can move inside the new turn. Maintain flex in your joints as your body weight moves forwards and the pressure is applied to the front of the skis. The skis will now be bending under pressure, carving an arc with a reverse camber shape combined with the ski's side cut. Keep leaning and steering progressively throughout the turn as you feel your body weight move towards the tail of the skis again. At higher speeds, many skiers push too hard on the downhill ski, causing it to skid away. Try to ride the edges and balance on them instead of pushing them away. So remember, allow your hips to move laterally to help you increase angulation and carve harder. Keep your body in a symmetrical shape with the feet, knees and hips the same distance apart. Maintain the flex in your joints as you ride through the turn, keeping the pressure on the skis. Don't force the ski away from you as you turn. Think of it as riding around on rails. As you improve your skiing, you'll be able to start negotiating the more technical sections of the mountain, heading for steeper areas where you'll be able to ski faster. Next, we'll look at techniques you'll need for riding steeps. Most ski resorts offer more advanced, steeper terrain, and this can often prove challenging and intimidating to the intermediate skier. However, by calling on the key skills you've already learnt, you'll soon find that these steeper slopes can be incredibly rewarding and will help build your confidence, especially when confronted by moguls and off-piste terrain. The first thing you notice when skiing on steeper terrain is that it's more difficult to steer your skis than it is on relatively flat terrain. The main reason for this is that the skis are angled against the steep slope, meaning that your body weight is focused on a much smaller area of ski, creating more resistance to the turn. It takes greater balance and power to steer through steeper gradients. Most people instinctively lean back on steeper slopes, but this causes the tails of the skis to dig into the snow. This makes it more difficult to steer your skis. The inside ski will catch as you turn, causing more acceleration in the fall line. You will generally feel heavier when skiing the steeps. Because of this, you have to be more sensitive to the pressures that build up on your downhill leg. If the forces build up too much, your downhill ski may be too heavy to hold the edge. The result is the downhill leg skidding sideways away from you, and this can lead to falling. Try to keep your body at right angles, about 90 degrees to the gradient you're skiing on, allowing the legs to lean and grip. Building confidence on steeps is essential if you want to develop your skiing technique. The initiation of the turn is usually the part at which beginners lack the most confidence. To help this, you can use a plow wedge to make the initiation more comfortable at the early stages of your steep slope skiing. As you're moving into the fall line, move your uphill leg out proactively into a wedge and place the ski on its new edge. Apply pressure to the new downhill ski as you would with a pedaling action in your snowplow turns. Continue to steer through the turn progressively, making sure you complete your turn so that you control your speed before the next turn. To ski parallel on steep slopes, it's essential that you allow your hips to move over your feet and down the hill. This enables the skis to become flat in relation to the gradient of the slope. Only when they're flat can they be steered into the new turn, and as they're steered, they're progressively tilted onto the new edges. Projecting the hips over the feet and downhill can be a very intimidating feeling. To build confidence and get used to rolling your hips over and across your feet, try using the pole support drill. To set yourself up for the pole support drill, stand on the hill with your skis supporting you. Place your pole in the ground beneath you, approximately 1 meter away from the downhill leg and 30 centimeters behind your heels. Place the palm of your hand on top of the pole and allow your body weight to rest on the pole. You need to keep your arm relatively straight if your body weight is resting on it. Once your weight is being taken by the pole, progressively move your hips across and over your feet. As they're moving over, be sure to keep the weight on the pole. As the skis flatten, steer your legs. As you steer with your legs, keep your hips balanced over the balls of your feet. Don't travel across the hill too much. Imagine skiing within a 2-meter corridor. Keep your hips facing down the fall line as you complete the turn. Steer your skis across the fall line to stop sliding. This type of turn takes the speed out of skiing steep slopes and develops your ability to commit to the turn. Having the pole supporting you builds the confidence needed to allow yourself to fall into the turn and effectively downhill. This will lead you onto skiing steeps with fluidity and confidence. So remember, when tackling steeper slopes, remember to keep your weight over the balls of your feet and not over the tails of the skis. Initiate the turn positively and confidently. Try starting with a strong wedge shape before attempting full parallel turns. Project your hips into the fall line to initiate the turn and flatten your skis. Keep your hips facing down the fall line as you complete the turn, steering the skis across. For most intermediate skiers, moguls provide the stiffest challenge to technique and confidence. However, given time and practice, skiing moguls will become much easier, and this will give you freedom to explore more of the terrain the mountain has to offer. One of the biggest differences between mogul skiing and piste skiing is that you don't lean your legs into the turn as you would do when carving. Every mogul field is slightly different, but to find a line, you should look for consistency in the pattern of the bumps. In a typical mogul field, you'll see different size moguls that can be tackled by intermediate skiers right up to experts. Choose your line according to your ability level. The easiest place to turn your skis is on top of the bump, since there is less of the ski touching the ground. As you begin sliding down the backside of the bump, try to get a full rotation of the skis across the fall line to control the skidding speed. As you approach the trough of the next bump, keep your body weight in the middle of the skis. Aim your pole plant at the top of the face of the next bump. As you skid into the face, keep the joints in your legs flexed to absorb any sudden pressure buildup. Firmly plant the pole and begin rotating your legs to pivot the skis. Skiing mogul fields that are steeper, or moguls that have bigger, more cut-out bumps, requires more than just skidding between the bumps. To keep control of your speed and line, you need to absorb the moguls. With bigger bumps, everything happens faster, and if you're out of balance, you'll be punished quickly. Before you enter these types of moguls, practice the following techniques in a mogul field you're comfortable in. Absorbing takes the impact out of hitting the face of a mogul. To absorb the impact, pull your feet up under your hips, then extend them back to create friction and control your speed. To extend, push the front of the skis back into the next trough. Because the impact pressures increase on the body with bigger moguls, you'll need to have a stronger core to avoid the upper body collapsing forwards under the impact and being thrown off balance. Each pole plant also needs to be faster and stronger. Aim to ride the moguls with your skis closer together than your normal on-piste carving stance, with a 50-50 distribution of pressure between them. So remember, keep your head and hips facing down the fall line and steer your skis with the thighs. Choose your line carefully according to your ability. Turn the skis on top of the bump and skid down the backside of the mogul. Aim your pole plant at the top of the face of the next bump. Keep your legs flexed as you skid into the next face to absorb any sudden pressure buildups. Skiing has developed rapidly as a sport in recent years, granting access to areas of the mountain previously only skiable by experts. One of the joys of modern skiing is the freedom to explore off-piste terrain and the unique sensation of gliding through powder. Terrain parks have also sprung up, bringing jumps, rails and other obstacles to the mountain, giving skiers even more ways to enjoy the sport. Free skiing is skiing on terrains that aren't pisted. It's also a certain spirit and lifestyle within the sport. It's about enjoying the incredible silence of the backcountry, the sensation of your skis gliding and floating in weightless powder, and the reward of looking back at your descent and seeing the line you chose to ride your way. When free skiing, it helps to adapt a slightly closer stance by keeping your skis close together. With unstable surfaces, a wider stance is prone to being pulled apart. Skiing on snow of a variable condition involves unpredictable shocks. Reduce the width of your stance and keep some retained tension in your torso. This will avoid the body collapsing at the waist. Raise the height of your shoulders to bring your upper back more upright and avoid the upper body folding forwards. Increased pole plant strength can give you the feeling of four-wheel drive when free skiing. When the body is supported by the hands and feet, it flows more easily and feels lighter. As you develop your confidence and technique, you will naturally want to free ski at higher speeds. Higher speed free skiing turns really test your technique. At higher speeds, sudden movements can feel like you're skiing into a solid wall made of powder. In higher speed, longer radius turns, you need to avoid placing too much weight on your downhill ski. If you forget to control the pressure distribution between your two skis, the downhill ski will sink. To avoid this happening, retain some tension in your legs to maintain a 50-50 pressure distribution across both skis. It will never actually be 50-50, but thinking of it will avoid the downhill ski sinking or being overpressured. When you ski powder at higher speeds, you can feel immense pressure building up under the downhill ski. As you steer across the fall line, you push and compact the powder snow together. This snow can feel like a wall of pressure on the outside of the turn, and you have to be careful that your body position isn't squashed by it. One area of the body that can be vulnerable to folding is the waist. If the middle of the body is weak, the upper body will collapse forwards and you could fall over head first. To avoid this happening, activate your core muscles. Activating your core will allow you to ski into the snow walls and absorb the pressure through your legs. This will keep you strong and solid and help you to ride deep powder at higher speeds. So remember, when free skiing, reduce the width of your stance and keep some retained tension in your torso to provide a solid core for tackling pressure buildups and snow walls. Raise the height of your shoulders to avoid your body breaking at the waist. Avoid putting too much pressure on your downhill ski and make sure your pole plants are positive and strong. An area of skiing that is developing fast is freestyle. Although freestyle skiing has been around since the early 70s, a new school of freestyle has developed recently that gives the sport a wider audience, and most ski resorts now have snow parks or terrain parks. Two techniques that are perfect to get you started in freestyle are skiing switch and the ground spin. Skiing switch is easiest on a pair of twin-tip skis, as the tail is rounded up like the tip. To ride switch for the first time, make sure you're on an almost flat gradient and that you can ski with good symmetry between the legs. You will naturally prefer to look over one shoulder as you're skiing switch. This is essential as you still need to look where you're going and watch out for other skiers. Scissor your legs as you turn to help keep your balance and edge the skis properly. To initiate the ground spin, start rotating the tails of your skis downhill. Begin to look around with your head in the rotating direction and keep your weight centered. Continue driving the tails around and try to maintain flat skis. Begin driving the tips of your skis downhill. Complete the spin with both skis flat and the tips aiming for the fall line. A big part of freestyle is hitting jumps and taking air, but it can be a bit daunting, especially when hitting a new jump for the first time. Jumping is best practice for the first time while skiing on the flat. Flex down into your boots and extend your legs to leave the ground. Make sure you're always in balance. Once you've got used to it on normal pisted terrain, you'll be ready to move on to a small kicker. To begin, approach the kicker with good flexibility in all your joints. Your head should be up and your hands out to aid balance. As you approach the top of the kicker, progressively extend to pop at the takeoff of the jump. Be sure to keep a little flex in the joints. As you're traveling through the air, maintain good flex throughout. Keep your head up and look in the direction of where you're going to land. As you touch down, ensure you stomp and flex through the middle of your body. Ankle flex is essential to stay balanced as you flex to absorb the shock of landing. Once you get comfortable with jumping and spending time in the air, you can make your jumps more stylish by adding grabs. An easy grab to start with is the safety grab. The skier reaches down and pulls up the feet as he gets airborne, and then grabs the outside of the ski edge with one hand. The terrain park offers lots of different obstacles to try out, from rails to boxes to kickers and jumps. Try adding in spins to your jumps, starting with basic 180s to 360s and even 540s. The possibilities are endless, so keep practicing and remember to wear the appropriate safety equipment. So remember, when turning to ski switch, try and keep the skis as flat as possible and keep your weight centered. Scissor your legs as you turn for extra balance and control. When approaching a jump, stay relaxed and flexed to keep yourself in balance as you take off. Keep your head up and look at where you're going to land. Flex your legs on landing to absorb the impact. Skiing is a sport that takes time and practice to fully master, but by concentrating on building a solid foundation of technique and skills, you will quickly find yourself able to ski whole areas of the mountain that were once out of your reach. If you want to really push your skiing ability to a whole new level, especially for free skiing and freestyle, it's advisable to go on a specialist training camp or book lessons with a professional ski coach. These coaching sessions will hone your technique and give you the confidence to really enjoy everything skiing has to offer. So what are you waiting for? Go ski!